Yeah, yeah, yeah. So many lies that you hear from the net, they don't get her respect. She reporting the truth, not a check. You want an unbiased opinion straight from the chest, not a bit of conflict or someone here for a check. Tune in, these are thoughts from a lawyer on a mission who goes so hard it's like she works on commission. Trolls in the comments might say she tripping cause they lack the knowledge, they don't know they missing. Got a couple current events that you like, wanna know about law from the eyes. Tired of all these blogs running lies because their agenda's a disguise. Tune in to the intellect, cause I'm sure y'all missing all the facts of the case that she steady is gifting. Someone here for the people, man, it's so uplifting. If you ain't subscribed yet, then you just omitting facts.
Hello, everyone. It is Pam Esquire, also known as Your Law Intellect. Thank you so much for joining me. If you could be so kind as to hit that like button on your way in, subscribe to the channel. I told you guys as soon as we had an update on this case of Christian Gold Walden, that we will discuss this. Who is Christian Gold? He is the fiance of basketball, I guess, ex-wife, Jennifer Williams. And we had our last few videos have been on this case. We pulled documents, and the documents don't lie. Men lie, women lie, but documents do not lie. And so there was a narrative as if people were hating and making things up, to the point that Jennifer and Christian went on to Carlos King's show today. And I know many of you guys watched it. I posted it in the membership. I was hoping I could do a watch along, but I wasn't able to. But I was in the chat over there on Carlos King. If you have not seen it, I know a few people have done commentary on it already. But it was very interesting. Very, very interesting. Again, for me, what do I always say? Where's your authority? So, we have documents. I actually have the transcripts already. The members have already told me they want me to at least go over the victim's testimony in the membership. So I will probably read that in the membership. I also have the sentencing transcript as well, since there was a discrepancy on what his restitution was, as he alleged. And it was a few more discrepancies that were in there that were a bit inconsistent, but that's not why we're here today. That's not why we're here right now. We are here right now because the warrant, let me first read. Over there on Simone's page, there was an auntie that decided to post, and she basically did not believe what was being alleged about her good nephew. Well, what had happened was she inboxed attorney Simone Redwine, and she said, "It's really odd to me that you are so invested in Christian's life. Why spread false rumors instead of searching for the truth?" Well, we searched for the truth. We got all the documents. We went and got to make sure that we were not spreading anything that was wrong. And again, I'm not a person, I believe in grace and mercy and redemption, but I do also believe that part of that is you should just be honest. That's it, especially when you're in the public eye. Why? Because you have people that are going to look into what you said, especially when you start coming for the chat or you start coming for the people reporting on it. We're like, no, these are the receipts that we have. So anyway, she goes on to say, I get it. You want views, but spreading pure lies to attack Christian's character is low of you. You don't want to know Christian as a successful man who was released and has redeemed himself, like many white men do. No, you choose the opportunity to tear a black man down who is minding his own business. He and Jen are in love with one another. And is that offends you? So my question is, why are you so invested into his life? You don't think about the hurt you cause Christian's family by spreading lies and rumors. But let me tell you, quote, I'm that auntie, end quote. Ooh, that auntie that goes hard for my nieces and nephews. So you want some content, give me the time and the place, and I'm there to clear this ish up, because all this clout you're chasing is ridiculous, as well as what I guess she's trying to say, we all prepared to go to Paris for an amazing wedding. So sit on that, because Christian is not, that she had this in caps, in jail, nor is there any warrant for his arrest. Well, the issue with that is the warrant for the arrest was on the docket. Now, Christian apparently is saying that I guess he didn't know that the warrant existed. And how do we know that? Because Christian has filed a motion today. This was on the docket sometime after the interview aired with Carlos King, of which he is requesting a walk-in hearing. Why he is requesting a hearing to walk in? Probably because he would like, his attorney will probably be negotiating so that when he goes in, he doesn't get arrested. You know, that he just has the time to turn himself in and is automatically at the hearing, so he doesn't have to worry about being arrested. Hello, Mrs. C60 Virgo. Thank you so much for joining us. And so let's pull up this motion right quick. And it's all of this as if this stuff just cannot be confirmed or denied on dockets. That's what was really interesting about this interview. So this is a motion for a walk-in hearing for modification to allow travel outside of the country or to close the case. So if you guys are not aware or you're new here, Christian Gold, who is the fiance of basketball wife Jennifer Williams, there was a warrant that we went over, and the warrant was based on the fact that it was, I think it was number 6 of his probation, because he has been on probation, I think, for the last couple of years. He is set to be released from probation, if all goes right and goes well, around this time next year, actually August of 2025. However, there was a request for a warrant because there were pictures that Jennifer posted on her Instagram page that basically showed he was going in and out of the country, and I guess, and he went to California as well. Well, based on that and the written description of the PO and also the pictures attached, there was a warrant that was issued for his arrest. And it was the warrant that I guess Auntie was saying didn't exist. However, this non-existent warrant caused a motion for a hearing to modify and allow him to travel out of the country. So he has a wedding that is scheduled for, I believe, September 14th. And it looks like as of right now, there ain't even permission to even go to this wedding as of right now. That's what it sounds like to me. That is no permission, because you're asking permission, right? You're asking permission. So let's just go over it. Very short, very sweet. Hearing should be very interesting. But it has comes now the defending the style case and makes this his motion for a walk-in hearing and shows this honorable court the following facts. The defendant went to trial before the Honorable Linda Hunter for false imprisonment and domestic violence battery. The defendant was acquitted of the domestic violence battery and convicted of the false imprisonment charge by a jury trial. The defendant was sentenced to 10 years to serve 7 in custody. That's what we said. We showed the disposition. Complete the domestic violence intervention program and pay restitution in the amount of $12,500. Is that not what we said? We said it was $12,500, even though on the show it was alleged it was $250,000. And then on the Carlos King interview, it appeared that when he was asked about it, he was like, I've paid it, but he never really specifically said what the amount was. Then later on, he said, I paid the $12,500 and kind of threw it in there. But we all know on the show, he said it was $250,000. But this is the motion that was filed just a few minutes ago that said that the restitution is $12,500. I'm just saying. Paragraph 3 says the defendant was released on parole after serving 30 months. So he got 7 years in prison. He probably did a bunch of programs, got some good time. All of that went before the parole board, and he only did what would that be? Maybe 3 years, 3.5 years in prison. And then the remainder of the 7 years was on parole. But right now, the last 3 years are on probation. So the defendant was released on parole after serving 30 months of his sentence after counsel sent a letter to the parole board indicating several mitigating circumstances regarding the case. The defendant was released in February of 2018. Since his release, the defendant has completed all his special conditions. Remember, we went over those special conditions, I think, in the previous video. He completed the domestic violence intervention program. He consented. Remember, we showed the consent agreement of restitution and sent a money order for the final amount before counsel was hired. So he already sent it. So when I guess he said on the video it was paid, it was already paid. He has had no contact with the victim in this case. So it was part of his criteria, as well as he couldn't have any contact with the victim. The defendant has had no new criminal cases or brushes with law enforcement for 6 years. He has his own company and is scheduled to get married in September. He was informed via Instagram. So which one of y'all told him that he had a warrant out for his arrest? Which one of y'all told him that? He said he was informed via Instagram that he had a warrant for his arrest. After speaking with the probation officer who obtained the warrant, he found out it was for leaving the jurisdiction without the permission of the probation office. Now, you knew that what it was for when we said it on our videos, because they said exactly what it was on the disposition. But that's fine. He said he didn't know nothing about what the warrant was for. He called his probation officer. His probation officer said he went out of town without permission. So that was the reason why. During his time on probation, the defendant has had a myriad of different officers and received different instructions on travel outside of the state. He would ask that, given the aforementioned information, he be allowed to have a walk-in hearing to prevent a period of incarceration during his scheduled wedding. So he's saying over the years, he's had various so when he got on probation, was it 2022? So he's saying over that time when he was set for his probation, he's had several officers and they've all given different instructions related to that. What is interesting is when I talked about this, what did I say, guys? I said, listen, I don't know. Perhaps one officer told him this. Maybe a supervisor told him that. Maybe such and such told him that. We don't know. Maybe one person didn't know. The right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing. I said that in the video. So it's very interesting to see that this is what, one of the rationales is in this motion. Nonetheless, he's saying over the years, I've just had several people tell me different things when it comes to leaving out the state. So I don't know. I guess it was a bit of confusion. He's saying it was, something, they had some difficulty in communication, some type of a breakdown or something. I don't know. Morky's mom said the finest legal everything by the law intellect. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. What a compliment. Courtney said, girl, stop giving him defenses and free legal advice. Now you sound like my husband. It just flows sometimes because I just automatically think on both sides. So I automatically think like, this can happen. I've done probation violations. So I just automatically say, I don't just assume that they were really just breaking the law or violating their probation. I can say there could be an excuse to it. That's all I was saying generally. That's all. But I get what you're saying. Brown Mama 3186 said he went back and reviewed all shows of him to know what to say to his lawyer and not a judge. Renee said Jennifer is almost 50 and should be experienced enough to be better at choosing mates. Well, Guess we've all had our share of difficult situations. See, I'm trying to be nice here. Y'all see, I'm just trying to be very, very nice. I'm just trying to be neutral, give you guys the information. Because when I watched the Carlos King interview, I was like, something ain't clicking. Like, something just. So I said, I'm going to have a bit more grace and mercy. So it has his wedding is to take place in the middle of September. And the only violation he has had was leaving the state of Georgia without permission from probation or this honorable court. The defendant had no prior conviction before this case. While in custody, he became a voracious reader and educated himself to become a better citizen. So what he is asking is that this honorable court grant him a walk-in date, and B, close the case upon proof of special conditions have been satisfied, or allow the defendant to remain on probation but issue a travel pass for him to get married in Europe to his fiance. So right now, a homeboy doesn't even know if he's gonna be able to get married in September. I know Jennifer is over there stressed out. You guys spent all this money. It's probably a nice wedding special. VH1 is probably capturing all of it. People may have the exclusive magazine cover, and to turn around and it wasn't even approved yet. But didn't he say he didn't leave because he was still in Georgia? That's what they said. Let's pull that up. That's what was alleged. Let's see if I still have it. Yeah, when they were requesting the warrant on August 1st, they had on or about July 18th, 2024, the defendant left the state of Georgia without permission and traveled to Cali. The defendant is engaged to Jennifer Williams from Basketball Wives, which is an MTV show. That's what they have in parentheses anyway. Miss Williams posted her and the defendant in Cali on her social media. Miss Williams has other posts on her social media page that indicate her and the defendant have been to Switzerland on or about July 6th and Italy on July 2nd. The defendant has not had permission to travel. On July 22nd, the supervising officer contacted the defendant to inquire if he left the state or country, in which he reported he had not. He reported that he was currently at a wedding that's in Georgia, has been there for the last, 2 days. But they were asking about July 6th and they were asking about July 18th, but when they contacted him on July 20th, he was like, "Oh no. I've been, they talked about July 2nd in Italy and July 6th, but he said, "No, I've been at a wedding, the last few days." The supervising officer has attached photos to a case note supporting the fact that the defendant did leave Georgia without permission. And then it also says, because he said he has never had any type of violations unless this is a typo, it has on August 16, 2023, an administrative hearing was held to address the defendant leaving the state without permission. So according to this wouldn't be his first rodeo, as he is alleging in this motion. He's saying that this is the first time, I guess, that he's had any issues. Maybe God is trying to tell Jennifer something. Well, she talked about that a lot in the Carlos King interview. She said, just to let everyone know, she's not dumb. She's prayed for discernment. So she believes she has discernment because that's what she prayed for. Even though discerning of spirits is a gift, Jennifer, that's a gift. You got to look up the gifts in the Bible. But nonetheless, she said, I guess God gave her that gift of discernment. So she kind of knows, she can peep it out. And so Jennifer also mentioned that she's seen for herself money going up and down, and when it's red and when it's blue and when it's green and all these different colors. So she knows, like, she's seen the money that he's had, in the bank. Not in the bank, on his trading. She hasn't seen his bank account, but she said that she has seen the trading portion. That's what she said she saw. But right now, Jen, we don't know. We don't know if you are going to be able to, if this wedding is going to go forward or not. It's up to the judge at this time. And if you can get a hearing even before that time, according to this. So, let me see if I have. What is this? Oh, so one of the things he also talked about was when he did the motion to modify the sentence. But as you guys see, this really didn't have anything to do with the restitution. This has something to do with he claimed, so what he told Carlos King was that he was offered time to plea, and he said he wasn't going to plea. Well, according to this motion for modification, it sounded like he actually was going to plea, but something came up where they couldn't switch the dates up, and that's the reason why he didn't plea. So that's why I said it was very hard listening to a lot of the stuff when you looked at the documents, because he doesn't not just completely outright not tell the truth in some sense. I think sometimes there's some omissions. Sometimes there's a little bit of embellishments, in my opinion, when you look at a lot of documents. Now, what I do agree with is I did read the sentencing, and it did sound like the young lady that all of this happened to, who was the victim in this case, she did not want him to go to prison. And she did voice that she really didn't think prison was going to help. But she was like 18 at the time. He was 19. And the judge almost was just like, this is, why are you blaming yourself? Because she almost blamed herself. Like, well, she did blame herself. She was like, I'm the one that jumped off of the balcony. And it also came out during the trial when I go over the transcript. What came out was that they were in constant communication even after this happened. So his attorney did go over like them hanging out, going out for drinks, her sending pictures at the club to him, them spending time together, like hundreds of texts back and forth. She did bring it out, but the judge basically said it wasn't relevant because it's not uncommon for DV people, people in domestic violence type relationships to go back to their abuser. So that's what the judge's whole stance on that. Like, it's not really relevant. Now, he was not charged, he was not convicted with DV, although he was charged with it. The judge found him not guilty, but he was convicted of false imprisonment. But in the transcript, she did reference other acts or other incidents where she alleged that some aggressiveness or hitting may have taken place, some physical contact. And she also said on that day that it was some type, she had a scratch or something, but she was kind of blacked out. She had some moments that she doesn't really remember. But again, he was found not guilty when it came to the domestic violence. But I think when it came to the false imprisonment, they had the people across the hallway who alleged, they heard her screaming for help, or they were looking through the peephole and looking to see what was going on. And I have their testimony as well in the transcript of what they saw. So it was almost like they saw him trying to block her from leaving. So I think that's what aided. It corroborated what she was saying about the false imprisonment portion of it. So I'm just going to read a little bit of this because I know he said that he did not, he was not going to plea. He wasn't going to do that. That's what he said on there. So it has, the defendant was sentenced to 10 years to serve 7 in custody on September 16, 2015, after a jury rendered a guilty verdict on one count of false imprisonment and a not guilty verdict on one count of domestic violence battery. The defendant was ordered to complete a DV intervention program, pay restitution, and have no contact with the victim while on probation. This is what I'm reading right now, is just an old motion when he was trying to amend his sentence or modify the sentence. And this was filed, what's the date? The date on here? Wait a minute. It was filed August 4th of 2016. So he was convicted in 2015. So about a year later, looks like he was trying to modify it. So at the first pretrial, the state made an offer of 2 years to serve, 6 months on two misdemeanor counts. So that was his first offer. So he did mention that today, something similar to this. And he is correct. The court did reject the offer based on the injuries to the victim and indicated it would sentence the defendant to 10 years to serve 5 in custody and with the same special conditions in the rendered sentence. On Friday, August 21st of 2015, a second pretrial was heard before the Honorable Court. The state, after consulting with the victim, made an offer of 10 years to serve 2 or 3. So then the state consulted with the victim, which they often do, and they said, hey, we're going to offer him 10 years, but he'll only have to serve 2 or 3. The court inquired if any new evidence had been discovered, and the state and the defense indicated that there had been extensive communication between the two parties. In addition, the court wanted to confirm the victim agreed and knew about the new recommendation. On Monday, August 24th, 2015, a third pretrial took place before the commencement of the trial. The victim was present, and the state indicated it was willing to offer 10 years to serve 2 in custody, and the aforementioned conditions, and this honorable court indicated it would follow the state's recommendation. The defendant wished to enter a plea. This is according to his attorney in this pleading. The defendant wished to enter a plea on those terms, appealing only for a turn in date to see the birth of his niece. The court denied his request, which prompted the defendant to proceed to trial. So, according to his motion to amend, he was going to take a plea, which would have been 10 years to serve 2. But because he wanted to see his niece be born, the court was like, I'm not moving the date. And so that's supposed to be why he went to trial. So then they go on to say, nice things. The defendant was convicted on one. Well, now that's not nice, but they go on to say nice things about him as to why the amendment should happen after they talk about the convictions. They say the defendant's case was his first encounter with the judicial system. He had a full-time job with Verizon. He is a high school graduate and had never been arrested prior to this case. Now, I heard something about some degrees. Maybe the degrees happened later on. I have to relook at it to see. But according to this, by 2016, they just said he had graduated from high school, which, makes sense. He was 19. Since his conviction and incarceration, the defendant has been a model prisoner. He has completed the following courses offered by Georgia Department of Corrections: a state certified motivation for change course, a vocational educational basic computer skills class, a reentry skills building class, and he has taught classes to other prisoners and has written a book. If the court were to modify the sentence to 10 years to serve 2, the sentence the court indicated it would impose prior to trial, the defendant would have adequate time to pay the large amount of restitution owed. He could help make the victim whole in a more timely fashion. So they've been calling this $12,500 a large amount of restitution. If the court were to follow first offender status, then the defendant would be able to obtain employment in his field of telecommunications. The defendant poses little risk of committing a subsequent crime. He has used his time to reflect on his actions and improve himself. Further, he has a supportive family ready to take him in after his release. A lengthy prison sentence would be counterproductive to the interest of justice given his actions since the imposition of the sentence. This honorable court has jurisdiction to modify the sentence. So they did try to modify it, but according to him, he was going to take a plea, which is something he denied in the Carlos King interview. I just wanted to point that out. Lotus Light said, Pam, how did they get to 250 though? Or is he adding more money on to get from Jim? I thought it was just 12K. I don't know where the 250 came from. Because as I've showed you guys in the most recent motion, he basically agrees that it was just 12.5. And he also mentioned the 12.5 He also mentioned the 12-5 on Carlos King's show today as well. So it has on here, this is a motion that was just filed today. For those of you that may have just come in, make sure you hit the like button. It's very quick. He is trying to get a hearing automatic so he can go in and get a hearing so he can be able to go to his wedding. Right now, it don't look like he got permission to go to his wedding right now that they are promoting and have been promoting for the last, 4 or 5 months since Basketball Wives has been on. Lotus said he worked at Corp America, aka Autos, in the mall and got her a job there too. He was, I have to further read the transcript, but the victim testified that she worked at Autos and he was working at AT&T. So perhaps that's how they met or something. I don't know. I haven't read all of it yet. I said I'm gonna do a reading in the membership, but I haven't read it yet. Good to see you, Dr. Mac. But I'm gonna go over this one more again for all the latecomers, and then we'll take a couple of questions, and I'm gonna be out of here, child. This Christian gold thing is just the defendant went to trial before the Honorable Linda Hunter for false imprisonment and domestic violence battery. What I'm reading right now is his motion he just filed today for a walk-in hearing for modification to allow travel outside the country or to close the case. Trying to close the case is very interesting while you have a warrant out for your arrest, but hey, who am I? The defendant was acquitted of the domestic violence battery and convicted of false imprisonment charge by a jury trial. The defendant was sentenced to 10 years to serve 7 in custody, complete the domestic violence intervention program, and pay restitution in the amount of $12,500. I wonder what the reason why. Are they trying to say like, oh, I got some old separate deal on the side where I have to pay her more? I don't, because it seems like that would be in this pleading, right? Because that's part of your special conditions to get off of probation. The only thing he's mentioned is $12,500. There is no mention of no $250,000, and that was specifically the number that was said on Basketball Wives and reiterated on Basketball Wives. The defendant was released on parole after serving 30 months of his sentence after counsel sent a letter to the parole board indicating several mitigating circumstances regarding the case. I just read some of those. He got all the certifications. He was the model prisoner, all of that. The defendant was released in February 2018. Since his release, the defendant has completed all of his special conditions. He completed the DV intervention program. He consented to restitution, which we went over, and sent a money order for the final amount before counsel was hired. He has had no contact with the victim in this case. The defendant has had no new criminal cases or brushes with law enforcement for 6 years. He has his own company and is scheduled to get married in September. He was informed via Instagram that he had a warrant for his arrest. So somebody DM'd him, was like, you might want to look into this, bruh. After speaking with the probation officer who obtained the warrant, he found out it was for leaving the jurisdiction without the permission of the probation office. During the time on probation, the defendant has had a myriad of different officers and received different instructions on travel outside of the state. He would ask that, given the aforementioned information, he be allowed to have a walk-in hearing to prevent a period of incarceration during his scheduled wedding. He's just trying to come to his own wedding, y'all. That's what he is trying to do right now. His wedding is to take place in the middle of September, and the only violation he has had was leaving the state of Georgia without permission from probation or this honorable court. That's all. I just left the state and didn't tell nobody that I was going. That's all I did. Maybe once, twice, 3, 4 times. I mean, no, I don't know how many times, but they did mention California, Paris, and they mentioned Switzerland. So The defendant had no prior conviction before this case. While in custody, he became a voracious reader and educated himself to become a better citizen. 504, you know you wrong for this comment. Just wrong. Just wrong. Courtney said Jennifer knows how to find them. She says she has a connection with him. She can't explain it. Their first date, they talked for 6 hours. Yeah, so that's what she said. I'm just reporting what the lady said. He doesn't want Jennifer to lose her wedding money. Yeah, I can see that. Yes, Judy. Have 504 needs to approach the bench. She definitely needs to approach the bench. Some things that just some things need to be adjudicated. 504. I think I'm going to do a social media warrant for your arrest. So I want you to go ahead and look out in your DMs, because that's where we give arrest warrants now on social media. We're going to do it through your DM. Okay? I think we're gonna do a hearing for you, because that comment was just, I don't know. It has to violate some law, some social media law somewhere. Gigi says scammers are usually good conversationalists. Sassy said he knew he wasn't supposed to travel. He lied to the probation officer when he called. Well, he had, if somebody told him about, I'm gonna assume if somebody DM'd him on Instagram and told him about the warrant, I am going to assume that it was one of our, I talked about it, Simone talked about, Simone actually did a video on Instagram, probably did it on TikTok too. So if you read the disposition of it, or the reasoning why that they agreed to issue the warrant, it's very clear as to why and what the violation was. They didn't take calling anybody, and we talked about it on this the third video that we've done. So Morky's mom said this is an old case. Was he still reporting to probation? His PO was probably leaving him alone. Well, so he was sentenced to 10 years in prison. He was supposed to serve 7, but he only served about roughly 3.5, which means the remainder of the 7 was on parole. However, once he got out, the 3 to get to 10, that's why it's to serve 7 out of the 10, he was on probation. So he's only been on probation for since 2022 or something like that. But you do have different, I'm sure he may have had a different probation officer, may have switched up. Sometimes you do get probation officers that's like, hey, live your life and text me and let me know how you're living it. You may get some that's cool like that because they know you're not a threat. And then you may get some that are super strict where probation is their job. So they're looking, they're gonna do the home visits. They want to know your family, they want to know your fiancés. They're gonna call your friends and family, see what's going on. They might pop up on you. They may want you to report every few weeks or whatever. Some are strict and some are lenient. So he may have had a combination of both that was like, it's cool, just let me. But I can't see him not any officer saying you don't have to let me know that you're leaving. Even if they say they're not gonna deny it, we just want to know. It sounds like they didn't even know until they got on Instagram on Jennifer's page and seen that. So clearly Instagram, maybe they're basketball wise viewers. I don't know. But clearly Instagram has been how people have gotten a lot of information. The PO got the information through Instagram. Then you have Christian said he got his information that he had a warrant for his arrest, that he had to watch over his shoulders because he didn't know when they were coming. He learned that through Instagram. So Simply Cindy says someone reported him. I mean, but how would we really know that he didn't contact his PO and let him know he was going out of town? I think it would have been an assumption. He said he was on probation. He said that on the show. So you would kind of assume that perhaps he's told his PO, but oh, he wasn't answering auntie calls, so she DM'd him allegedly. Oh wow. That may have happened. Listen, we're just speculating. We don't know any of these people. Mississippi Shell and ATL said, I know someone that violated probation for leaving the state, ended up getting arrested to finish his sentence because he violated. They wouldn't even bring him to his mom's funeral. Yeah, that's up to them. And they can't revoke your probation. If they revoke this probation, he have to serve the rest of it. That's similar to those of you that have been following the Ernest Williams case with Erica King, who is the Cody. She had, and it was a big thing because she was like, I think they were giving her 10 years, but they were giving her time served, so she wasn't even going to do any time or something like that. And the judge was like, she got it something like she got to be on probation or so. She wasn't even going to have to be on probation. It was literally just going to be you out here in these streets for 10 years. And if you do anything wrong, then you got to go do the whole 10 years. But the judge was like, no, you're going to have to get on probation for a certain amount of years or something. But it's the same thing. So apparently they do those hybrid type sentencing a lot in Georgia where they give you 10 and you only serve 7. We don't do that as often in Michigan. I've never done it at all. So, but I'm not going to say that it doesn't happen here just because I haven't done it. But yep. Courtney said Jennifer's first husband threw drinks in her face on TV. Second, almost husband doing life sentence for unaliving his nephew. And third, almost husband trying to scam her out of 250 for 12.5 restitution. Well, that's all alleged, you know. He said he paid it himself and she wasn't ever going to give him the money. And you know, he was bragging about how he brought her the watch he had on. Carlos was like, well, who brought you that watch? It was for my well, he was thinking I knew Jennifer bought it. He was like, let me think. It was my 30th. Well, who bought it? Right here. George truly bought it. But wait a minute. Let me tell you what I bought her. Show him what I bought you. Show him what I bought you first before you even did this for me. Well, God did it, said his explanation for how he makes money is suspect. It's actually confusing. So I heard him kind of say two different things. So I heard him say that he makes most of his money trading and investing for himself. I got that part. But the other part, when it came to people, he said he charges a fee to teach them how to invest, is what I got. But then it sounded like he invests for them, because teaching and investing for them is two different things. Having access to their account and their money is something totally different than I do a webinar or a class and I'm just instructing you on how you can day trade or whatever type of trading he's doing. That's something totally different than actually taking someone's money doing on their behalf. And why I started thinking that that's what was happening is because later on he mentioned how people get mad when they lose $20. And I'm like, but if you're just teaching them and you charge them a flat rate for that, then why they get mad at you? They're the ones that made the trade and they're in control. They could have not traded, or they could have chose to hold, or chose, not to buy whatever they bought. So he was talking in circles. He definitely was talking in circles, and I got confused. I just wasn't even trying to figure it out. Auntie Eva said, thank you for not playing any snippets of the interview. Carlos' voice grates on my nerves. Well, Carlos said, one thing Carlos is going to do is capitalize on whatever is hot, because everybody was over there, because we were talking about it probably the last week or so. We've been talking about Jennifer and Christian the last week. And so he was able to get the interview, and capitalize. And he said that he was off of probation a year from now. So this interview happened sometime in August. Again, he did not mention the warrant. So I don't know when this was recorded. We know it was probably in August, but it is the 20th. So we don't know when it was recorded. You can watch the interview. I don't think it's no harm in it. It wasn't like any bombshell revelations, but you know, Tracy said at some point maybe he did all three. I think he is just scamming now. I don't know. Listen, Tracy, we are just speculating, but according to Simone, she's talked to victims and she has the contracts, or people that alleged to be victims, and she has the contracts. And what she's claiming is, I guess he charges them $2,500 flat fee or something. Now, what he did admit on there was he doesn't have licensing or anything to do any of this because he's a convicted felon, so he can't have a license. So he said he does secondary trading, I think he said it was. Don't get me to lying. I got somebody that does all my stuff for me, so I'm not good at it. So, but I believe that's what he said, is that he does secondary trading. So Felicia H said Carlos is here for the mess. He is. Southern Belle said Carlos was paid for sure by Jennifer. He didn't ask any pertinent questions. He was just there to help Jen. They basically talked. Like, he told his story about and he said he's told it several times. And again, it's not that just because he has a past. A lot of people have a past. A lot of people have done dumb stuff in their 20s. He was real young. He was 19, and so that's not, I think, where the questioning is. It's just the 12,000 versus the 250. Then I think he said the young lady seemed like she committed suicide. She was trying to commit suicide, or he don't want to put words in her mouth, but that's kind of what his opinion is, as opposed to the whole she was just trying to escape from him. That was just the narrative. It's just the explanations. Like, I think if he was just straight up like, yeah, I was 19, I was hot-headed, I was drinking, I didn't know, I was trying to overpower and I want her to leave, and so that was a crime, and I did time for the crime. That was it. And I owe $12,500. But again, we don't know when he paid the restitution off. In the motion, it just says that he's paid it since before counsel got on. So counsel could have got on. We don't know today. We don't know. But he did say, as of the day of the video from Carlos King, he did say that it was paid. So, and then you urge people to look at, that's like when I was doing a commentary on Bishop Whitehead. It's like y'all urge people to look at documents, to pull them down, to discuss them, to see what they say, and then get mad when we pull the documents, read them, pull them down, commentate on them, and get mad because it doesn't say what you said. It's like, don't threaten me with a good time, then get mad that I took you up on that good time. I mean, Jen says she has common sense, so let her be happy. Listen, she like it, I love it. He kept talking in circles, very confusing and hard to follow the narrative. That's from Miss Buckeye 99. Simply Cindy said, true, it's not really the past, it's the inconsistency in the stories and Jen's repeated cycle with men. Yes, that I agree with. So to make it seem like, I think in Jen's mind, she feel like everyone is holding his feet to the fire or talking negatively about him based on his past. But that is not true. It's, you're telling us, look at the documents, there's public records, you're right. And some of us pull them. Like, that's what we do on YouTube. So I pulled it and I read the transcripts. And honestly, they probably did have a toxic relationship. That's what from a little bit I read, I didn't read the same, I don't know this wasn't their first situation, and allegedly this wasn't the first time the police were called, according to the neighbors that were looking in the peephole. So they were kind of aware that they have this kind of relationship. And then after you done had to jump off a balcony, broke your ankles, got pins and screws and whatever else in your ankles, was in a wheelchair for 3 months because she messed her back up too, I guess. All of that, and you still texting him and calling him and sending him pictures at the club and all of that. Then it was a time in the transcript where I'm gonna pull it up. Let me see. I didn't redact anything, so I don't want to end up pulling up something. But there was a time in the transcript where, which was very interesting, where the court was like going off on his family, like, because they were upset with. Let me see. Is this it? Just saying that. Let me see. I'm gonna do this real quick. So you guys get me to talk, and I say I'm gonna be on for 30 minutes, and I end up on here longer. So it was a point. Let me see. Where the court was like, basically, the state was objecting to them, or the objecting to them bringing up all of the times that they saw each other after the fact, and was saying that it wasn't relevant because that's kind of the cycle and the pattern when people are in these types of relationships. So let me see. So that's the peephole people. Let me see. Um, so this is part of her transcript. Uh, I obviously wasn't gonna go over it at all, but I was I don't know. I'm it's taking me too long to find it. But anyway, I plan on going over the transcript. I have it highlighted. But yeah, it was one point where when the judge basically was saying, well, the court the court was saying that you don't need to talk about them seeing each other and all of that. And I guess his family was in there looking like stone faced at her and rolling their eyes. And she was like, the victim, she said that's a way to intimidate the victim, and they weren't going to allow them to be in the courtroom if they were going to continue to act like that. The same thing at the sentencing, I believe it was something with a Facebook message or some type of social media message from somebody from his family. So yeah, he was cutting the rug, according to cutting a fool. I said cutting the rug like they was dancing, cutting a fool over there when he had his sentence, had his trial. Courtney said, yes, that's how some do. Some females will get put in a wheelchair and face all beat up by a boyfriend and text their abuse the next one and be on online like that's my man and I'm a stick beside him. Yeah. And they were kids. Like she was 18 at the time and he was 19. D Boogie said the interview was exhausting. Why do you say that? Brown Mama 3186 said Jennifer will be filing a report soon because he will wipe her account out and she will be homeless. The writing is on the wall. I don't think she that, to allow him access like that. Now he claims once they get married, he wants her to have access to like the money. She's gonna pay the bill. She's gonna be the one in control of the finances, is what he said. So yeah. Anyways, MD said it was probably the same inbox and Simone. You probably right. Cause that one was really, let me see if I can find it. Now I'm curious. Before I get off here. Make sure you guys hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for hanging out with me for the second day in a row, dealing with this basketball wives fiasco. Let me think. Oh, nope, that's past it. I thought I highlighted some of this stuff. I hope I didn't get caught slipping and didn't highlight anything. That would suck. That's the sentencing. It's so much. It's probably like 500 and something pages worth in this transcript. Let me see. Okay, here it is. Hold on. I knew I was going to find it. All right. I'm going to go over this real quick before we get off. Okay, so it has, this is part of the trial transcript. So this is Christian's attorney. Okay, and you didn't just text him and send him pictures, you hung out with him. Yes, we've seen each other since the accident. She called it an accident. Okay, and in fact, you saw each other. Would it be fair to say frequently? Answer: every once in a while it was. Question: okay, well, I want to talk about a sort of 2-week period in particular, that the 2-week period leading up to the pretrial of this case. Do you remember that when you came to court the last time? Answer: okay. Question: okay, is it fair to say that on or about August 12th y'all hung out, or I'm sorry, on the 2nd, that you invited him to hang out at the pool with you? Yes. Okay. And then on the 4th, you sent him some selfies of yourself getting ready to go out. Answer: I don't remember. Question: do you recall sending him some pictures of yourself in some black spandex and a black top? Mr. Dunaway was like, objection. He's a judge now in Fulton County. I'm going to object at this point. The witness said, I don't remember. Mr. Dunaway said that someone wears is not relevant to any inquiry. So then Mr. Henderson said, I'm just trying to be more specific about the photos, Your Honor, to see whether or not she remembers, but I'll move on. So then he says, do you remember on or about August the 7th going out for drinks together? And it was no response. So then the question said, this would help you. Do you remember the next day having pizza with him? He ordered a pizza and invited you over. The answer: yeah. Question: okay. And the night before that, you all had drinks? Yes. Okay, and on the 9th, would it be fair to say that you asked him to come and make you dinner? I think it was rice and fish and spinach. Answer: yes. Question: and did he come and make you dinner? Answer: he did. Question: did y'all spend the night together then? She said no. Mr. Dunaway: I'm going to object at this point. He's asked the question. She's answered the question that there had contact. So then this is the court. So the court basically told the jury to step away because she wanted to address this outside of the ears of the jury. So the court says, I agree with the state. This line of questioning is absolutely irrelevant and improper. The issues before the jury is the victim's state of mind at the time of the alleged incident and what might have led up to her state of mind at the time of the incident. What has happened since the incident is not relevant to any issue the jury has to decide. It's not uncommon for victims of domestic violence to forgive the alleged abuser, to minimize the alleged abuse, to try to drop the charges. That's not relevant. This action is being brought on behalf of the state. Even when a victim does not want to protect herself, the state has the authority and the right to step in and protect the victim, even if they are protecting the victim from the victim's own foolishness. But what has happened since the alleged incident? How is that possibly relevant to the jury? What she wore? She was wearing spandex is highly inappropriate. And I noticed that members of the audience are disagreeing with me. You certainly have the right to step up and step out of this courtroom. But because I am the judge and I wear the black robe, once you go to law school, run for election and become a judge, you can make the rulings. Now, everyone has the right to stay in the courtroom and observe the trial because it's a public trial. I will also ask the spectators not to stare, stone-faced expressions at the victims while she's testifying. It is a form of intimidation. I'm not asking anyone to leave, but smirking, grinning at the victim while she testifies on the stand, staring stone-faced with squinted eyes at the victim while she testifies can be considered a form of intimidation. And I have the authority to make a record, and I'm going to ask the public defender. So Mr. Meck was like, I will. And the court said to please instruct your witnesses as the proper decorum. Mr. Henderson, absolutely, Your Honor. The court said in this court. But how is this possibly relevant, Mr. Henderson? So Mr. Henderson, I'll move on, Your Honor. So the court said, all right, because the only issue before the jury is the victim's alleged state of mind during the alleged incident. I know many times during these domestic violence trials, sometimes the state will even bring in expert witnesses to testify why victims behave or act the way they do towards their abuser. But I don't think the state has an expert at this trial. But, common sense and life experiences, we've even had jurors who said, one juror, we had to strike his right up until the time of jury selection. His wife was abusing him and he wouldn't leave. So there's all kinds of reasons why victims minimize the charges, try to protect the abuser, try to change their testimony, but it's not relevant because at this point, this is the state's case against the defendant. It doesn't matter what the victim's state of mind or what her position is at this point. Mr. Henderson, I understand. So I will ask that you move on, saith the judge. I was going to find that before we left. Thank you, Monica, for the super chat. I appreciate it. So that's that. I always start out saying I'm just going to read it with no emotion and stuff, and then it just turns into that. But anyway, again, we've been on for an hour. That is the latest update, guys. I'm going to try to do a membership transcript reading later on. I have to go eat. But thank you guys again for supporting. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. We have fun over here. We go over, legal news and we break it down and we try to learn something new. We are the social media jurors and we're doing the same thing in this case. So I'm going to talk to you guys later. Have a great day.